I'm Jess, and once again this week I am both the traumatized and the abandoned. Welcome to our podcast where we talk about true crime, spooky things, and everything in between. But today we're going to be switching it up and talking about some spooky, scary short stories. I am so excited. So once again, like I said, my co-host Nikki, she's on maternity leave. We're wishing her all the best wishes, all the baby snuggles, just sending all the love to her and her family. We miss you, and hopefully it'll only just be a couple more episodes and I'll get my partner in crime back and it's gonna be great. But until then, you're stuck with me, so buckle up. So we're just gonna jump right into it. The fun fact of the day. Fun fact of the day. Fun fact of the day. So sad doing it by myself. Did you know that Australia is wider than the moon? I didn't. And that to me just seems very strange that like an entire country is wider than the moon. Because you think of the moon being like massive, right? But it's not. It's really not. Crazy. So like I said, we're switching it up this week. This episode comes out like 2 days before Halloween. So I hope you guys are ready. If you're dressing up, what are you being this year? I am going to be doing a Scream marathon on Halloween. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, it's fall. We're ready. Are you guys ready? Do you have your blankets? Do you have your popcorn? Are you ready? I'm ready. It's just going to be a bunch of short, scary stories, so buckle up. I hope you're ready. And yeah, these are not kid-friendly stories. I know last year we kind of did this, and it was funny because Nikki did kid stories, and I did not. I don't do kid stories, guys. If you want me to, I can do a kid-friendly version. I could. Just let me know. I'll put one out there. The first story, the puppy in the basement. Mommy told me never to go in the basement, but I wanted to see what was making that noise. It sounded like a puppy, and I wanted to see the puppy, so I opened the basement door and tiptoed down a bit. I didn't see a puppy, and then Mommy yanked me out of the basement and yelled at me. Mommy never yelled at me before, so it made me sad and I cried. Then Mommy told me never to go in the basement again, and she gave me a cookie. That made me feel better, so I didn't ask her why the boy in the basement was making noises like a puppy, or why he had no hands or feet. That was dark. Nunchucks. I found her twirling paper towel tubes tied with twine in the air. I asked her what she was doing. She said she was practicing her nunchucks. I was very confused as she had no way of knowing what they were. I asked her what she meant, and she said that Adam had told her how to make them and showed her each night how to use them. She went on to say that Adam told her to practice because she may need to know how to defend herself one day. I almost freaked out, but I asked her what Adam looked like. She said he was tall, blonde, and had blue eyes. She said, "Mommy, you know what he looks like. You know him. He died of a headache." I had to leave the room. You see, 4 months before she was born, my tall, blonde, blue-eyed martial arts pro friend had died of a brain aneurysm at the age of 27. She has not spoken of him since that day, so I'm not sure if I scared her with my reaction or if she had completed her lessons. See, they're not all that bad. There's some bad ones. This one's called There's Someone Under the Bed. A father went to say goodnight to his 7-year-old son, very well knowing that if he didn't, his son would have trouble sleeping. It was the nightly routine between them. With the first glance, the father could tell there was something unusual about his son tonight, but he couldn't put a finger on it. He looked the same, but his grin had stretched from ear to ear. "You okay, buddy?" Father asked. The son nodded, still with the grin, before saying, "Daddy, check for monsters under my bed." The father chuckled a bit before getting on his knees to check, only to satisfy his son. There, under the bed, pale and afraid, was another version of his son. He whispered, "Daddy, there's someone on my bed." That one gives me the chillies. I don't love that one. This one's called The Chair. When my sister Betsy and I were kids, our family lived for a while in a charming old farmhouse. We loved exploring its dusty corners and climbing the apple tree in the backyard. But our favorite thing was the ghost. We called her Mother because she seemed so kind and nurturing. Some mornings Betsy and I would wake up, and on each other's nightstands we'd find a cup that hadn't been there the night before. Mother had left them there, worried we would get thirsty throughout the night. I want one. That's so nice. I get thirsty at night. Sorry. She just wanted to take care of us. Among the home's original furnishings was an antique wooden chair, which we would keep against the back wall of the living room. Whenever we were preoccupied, watching TV, or playing a game, Mother would inch that chair forward across the room towards us. No, thank you. I'll just take the water. Sometimes she'd manage to move it all the way to the center of the room. We always felt sad putting it back against the wall. Mother just wanted to be near us. Years later, long after we moved out, I found an old newspaper article about the farmhouse's original occupant, a widow. She murdered her 2 children by giving them a cup of poisoned milk before bed, and then she hung herself. The article included a photo of the farmhouse's living room with a woman's body hanging from a beam. Beneath her, knocked over, was that old wooden chair, placed exactly in the center of the room. Oh, that one got me too. Oh, this is fun. Okay. The ghost at home. Last night, a friend rushed me out of the house to catch the opening act at a local bar's music night. After a few drinks, I realized my phone wasn't in my pocket. I checked the table where we were sitting at, the bar, the bathrooms, and after no luck, I used my friend's phone to call my own. After 2 rings, someone answered and gave a low, raspy giggle and hung up. They didn't answer again. Eventually, I gave up as it was a lost cause and headed home. I found my phone laying on my nightstand right where I had left it. You move. That's the answer to that. You just move. Yeah. You're gone. You don't know. Go. Leave. Okay. The cabin. A hiker decided to go on a hike by himself. Why? Sorry. What? No. Never go by yourself. I'm gonna start that over, but just no. Okay. A hiker decided to go on a hike by himself, something he was not very used to. The whole day was normal. Trees and bushes engulfed his surroundings. He enjoyed being outdoors in the mountains. Nothing seemed strange to him. That was, until he was making his way back to his car. He figured an 8-hour hike was good enough. The sky was already getting dark, and he needed to head back fast. What was odd was how much he didn't recognize the trail back. So he began to panic. Night had already taken over, and all he had was a flashlight and no clue how to get back. He knew it was already too late and too dangerous to keep going through the perilous forest. He began to worry that he would have no shelter for the night, when almost luckily enough, he stumbled across a broken down cabin. It was dark and seemed like no one had visited in years, but he knew it was the only place where he could rest until daylight, especially since his flashlight was running out of battery. He knocked on the door a few times, but no one answered, so he let himself in when, strangely enough, a perfect bed fitted for one person awaited him in the center. He knew that if the owner came back, he could explain himself. He was sure that the owner wouldn't mind, or was possibly even dead, so he went ahead and got himself comfortable in that bed. As he tried to sleep, he couldn't ignore the collections of paintings around the room. Portraits of strange-looking people peering at him, each wearing a smile that sent chills up his spine. Not too long after his exhaustion from the hike got the best of him, he was able to ignore the faces. The next morning, he got up early and was so shocked to see that there were no paintings around the room. They were windows. The red wristband. A doctor was working at a hospital where patients were tagged with colored bands. Green meant alive, red was deceased. One night, the doctor was instructed to get a few supplies from the basement of the hospital, so he headed to the elevator. The elevator doors opened, and there was a patient inside, minding her own business. Patients were allowed to roam around the hospital to stretch, especially those who have been there for a long time. The rule was to be back in their rooms before 10. The doctor smiled at the patient before pressing the number for the basement. He found it unusual that the woman didn't have a button already pressed. He wondered if she was heading to the basement too. The elevator finally reached the floor, and the doors opened. In the distance, a man was limping towards the elevator, and in panic, the doctor slammed the elevator button to a close. When it finally did, and the elevator began to ascend back up, the doctor's heart was pounding. "Why did you do that? He was trying to use the lift," the woman stated, annoyed. "Did you see his wrist?" the doctor asked. "It was red. He died last night. I would know. I did his surgery." The woman lifted her wrist. He saw red. She smiled. "Like this one?" White with red. A man just moved into an apartment and heads to the receptionist to get his keys. The receptionist gives him his keys with a smile, but warns him not to disturb the door with no number on his floor. He wondered why, but didn't bother to ask. He was too busy with his new apartment to care. After he finished unpacking, he began to get curious. He questioned why the receptionist would warn him of such things, and so he stepped out of his apartment to check the door with no number. He tried the doorknob first, but it was locked. So instead, he got onto his knees and peeked through the keyhole. The apartment he was looking into was empty. His eyes scanned the whole place before stopping at a woman standing face against the wall in the corner. He noticed her pale skin and long black hair before stepping back, suddenly feeling very wrong in a way for invading someone else's privacy. He brushed it off, assuming she was someone that just didn't want to be disturbed. The next day, though, he got more curious about the woman and eventually went back, straight away, getting to his knees. He peeked through the keyhole. All he saw was red. He assumed the pale woman must have caught him peeking the last time and covered the hole with something red. He left the door alone and instead went down to the receptionist to ask her questions. The receptionist sighed and asked, "You looked through the keyhole, didn't you?" He admitted to it, and so she felt obligated to tell him the story. She told him that a couple used to live in that apartment a long time ago. The husband went crazy and killed his wife. However, this couple wasn't normal. They had pale skin, black hair, and red eyes. A mother's call. A daughter was in her room upstairs doing her homework when suddenly she heard her mother call to come down for dinner. She jumped on her feet and began making her way towards the stairs. But before she was even able to take a step, hands grabbed her and pulled her into the laundry room beside the staircase. She panicked before realizing it was her mother. Eyes watery and bloodshot. "Don't go down there, honey. I heard it too." The wallpaper. We bought this rundown house, my boyfriend and I. While he started working on converting the kitchen into the main bedroom, I insisted on removing the old wallpaper. The previous owner had papered over every wall and ceiling in this house. It was a lot of work to remove, but it felt so good getting rid of it. The best feeling was getting a long peel, like when your skin peels after a bad sunburn. I turned it into a game, on the hunt to rip the longest piece possible. I noticed that there was a person's name and date under a corner section of the paper in every room. I couldn't help but to investigate and Google these names. What I discovered left me speechless. The names all belonged to missing people, and the dates matched the day of their disappearance. We notified the police, who sent a crime scene team. I overheard one of them say, "Yeah, it's human." Wait, what's human? "Ma'am, where is all the material you've removed? This isn't wallpaper." I warned you they were dark. Sorry. This one is the shortest one, but I found it super creepy. So, the window. My 4-year-old said he wished people didn't have to knock to get into the house. I told him about doorbells, so he asked me if we could install one on his window. Short, sweet, to the point, terrifying. Okay? Moving on. Standing there. I don't know why I looked up, but as soon as I did, I saw a man standing against my window, forehead on the glass, still eyes, lipstick red cartoonish smile. My wife was sleeping upstairs, our son in the crib. I couldn't move a finger, frozen as I watched him pass the glass. With his creepy smile still there, he put a hand up and slid it down the window, watching me with piercing eyes. I just stayed there, unable to move, feet still in the grass with trash bags in my hand, looking into my house. He stood against my window. That's just terrifying. It's so scary that happened. The sickness. It's been 315 days since the outbreak, 187 days since I realized I might be the only survivor, and 3 days since 2 of us found each other in the wreckage of a world and made me feel like everything was going to be okay again. After so long alone, I had almost forgot that the first sign of infection is hallucinating imaginary people. Licking. One night, a girl finds herself home alone, with only her dog to keep her company. The TV news is on, reporting that a serial killer is on the loose. Feeling uneasy, she locks all the doors and windows. In the middle of the night, she is awakened by a dripping sound. Scared, she searches for her dog for comfort, feeling him licking her hand. But the dripping sound keeps going, so she checks everything, from the taps in the kitchens to the bathroom, but nothing. She gives up and returns to her dark bedroom, her hand down again for her dog to lick. In the morning, when she opens her closet, she finds her dog dead, hanging upside down. The dripping sound was from his blood. On the closet doors, she sees a message. Humans can lick too. That one's really dark. There's so many really dark ones. Headhunter. A family of 4, 2 young children and their parents were traveling on a road when their car broke down. Their parents went out to look for help and left the radio on for the kids in case they got bored. By nightfall, the parents still hadn't returned. Sat in the darkness, the children continued to listen to the radio and grew alarmed when they heard that a dangerous killer was on the loose, having escaped from a prison nearby. The newsreader warned listeners to take extreme care when going about their business. Time passed, and the children waited. Silence outside the car was absolute until suddenly they heard a knocking on the car roof above them. Clank, clank, clank. The knocks grew louder and faster. Unable to bear it any longer, the children opened the doors and fled in terror. Only the eldest dared to turn and see the source of their fear. On top of their car was a large man who was bouncing 2 objects on the top of the vehicle, the heads of the children's parents. Mommy's home. A father is laying in bed just after waking up, grabs the baby monitor and walks to his desk in his home office. He has his baby on the monitor and hears his wife singing to her. Cracks a smile as he hears his wife, "Go to sleep, go to sleep." Then all of a sudden, the front door opens and his wife walks in with groceries. Okay guys, no, that's very different. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know what you think. It was my little twist on some short, spooky, scary stories. So which one got you the most? Which one gave you the most chills? Because there were a couple in there that I was like, "Ugh." Some were just like, "Ugh," you know? Okay, you get it. So that's it for this episode. If you enjoy the podcast, please do not forget to follow us. Leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, hi, like and subscribe. Do it, please, for me. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with our username at TTATA Podcast. And in the bio of all of our social medias is our link tree, which has our email. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, topic ideas, if you want to say hi to Nikki while she's on maternity leave, hit us up, let us know. Thanks for listening, guys. Next week, we are continuing the trend and doing our spooky section, okay? And just again, full disclosure, I'm gonna be diving into the Skinwalker Ranch. So be there, be square, or just, be there. And with that, we're going to leave you with this inspirational quote. It is during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light. And that was by Aristotle. And I thought that was very fitting with the spooky and the scary and the dark. So thanks for listening again, guys. Until next time, bye.